Ladies and gentlemen, we are live in the UFC's featherweight division. I think that's what we're going to be talking about in today's live stream. Something's wrong with my throat. Don't say anything gay about that. All right, let's put the thumbnail in and get in to the live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the live stream. How many days do we got till Bert MMA has his first fight? We have 14, 15, 16, 17 more days. Interesting indeed. But we got some MMA news to go over in today's live stream. Most of that is definitely going to be between Ilia Topuria taking on Brian Ortega. We're going to be talking about that quite a lot indeed. And then maybe we'll check out some other MMA news. You guys can ask questions. Y'all can make me do early predictions, late predictions, some fantasy predictions. Just ask me anything about the world of MMA. But obviously the first thing we're going to go through is Ilia Topuria. What is up, Email Mailson? When is next Bert's meet and greet? I am gonna go what is the card in May, or is it May 13th? I think May 13th, UFC Fight Night, Johnny Walker versus Anthony Smith. I will be in attendance for that card, so if you are there, if you do plan on attending that UFC Fight Night Smith versus Walker card, which most likely is going to be in North Carolina. If it is in North Carolina, I will be there. And if you guys want to come and say hello, you guys definitely can do so. But it's looking like a good card, considering there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights on the main card. What the hell is that? Is way too many fights on the main card, but they'll probably revise it or something in the future. But let's talk about my guy, Ilia Topuria. Let's find, where is this guy at? They really not have, there you go, Gaethje. We got Brian T-City Ortega, Josh Emmett, and Ilia Topuria as the main people we are going to be talking about. Pull up them UFC rankings for sure. And let's get into it. Some will get canceled for sure. For sure. There's always 1, 2, hopefully not, but maybe even 3. When's the UFC 287 full card breakdown dropping? I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do it right now after I get through some of the MMA news for the day. I will get into some of that. So UFC 287 full card prediction will be after I talk about the situation with Ilia Topuria. So stay tuned. We're going to do that in this live stream. But let's get it started with, there we go, with the featherweight division. Ilia Topuria and Brian Ortega should be a very good fight if that is the fight that gets made, but that's not what it's looking like. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Ilia Topuria versus Brian Ortega has been talked about in the last few days. Some people thought it'd be Ilia versus Brian, it'd be Ilia versus Josh Emmett. One of those two fights was going to be the most likely scenario to happen next in the UFC's featherweight division between the number 9 rising undefeated contender Ilia Topuria and 2 top 5 guys that are coming off losses in Josh Emmett and Brian Ortega. But we just got news right now that Brian Ortega does not seem like he's accepted a fight with Ilia Topuria, or that he would accept a fight with Ilia Topuria. And I quote, "I'll gladly humble someone if I have to, and once they earn their way up to where I'm at in the UFC rankings, you can come join me and we can fight. But you can't use your mouth to come up here. This is the fighting world. You can only do so much with your mouth, and this time, you're going to have to fight." I know Ilia Topuria has a fight lined up that means Ilia Topuria's got a fight booked. I know Ilia Topuria has a fight lined up. Good for him. If he earns his way up, let's do it. So, that leads us with one thing. That leads us with a little question. Who is that person that Ilia Topuria is going to be fighting? It's not going to be Yair Rodriguez. He's an interim champ. Not going to be Volkanovski, obviously. Max Holloway is a no. Brian Ortega is a no. Arnold Allen is a no. Chan Sung Jung, I highly doubt that would be the fight that they're going to be making. Giga Chikadze is an obvious no. I believe they're from similar areas or something. I believe Ilia Topuria might be Spain or something like that, but I've been hearing about Giga versus Chan Sung Jung as the fight they wanted to do for UFC Korea type of a card. So that leaves us with two guys. We got Josh Emmett, the number 5 guy in the featherweight division right here. 18 wins, 3 losses, only losing to Des Green with a split decision. Jeremy Stevens by knockout went on a crazy winning streak and then lost to Yair Rodriguez. It's either Josh Emmett, not Brian Ortega. It's either Josh Emmett or it's my guy, Calvin Kattar. But if we go on to Instagram right now and we check out what Calvin Kattar is looking like at the moment, I don't know. Is he good to fight? I remember him having a very bad injury not too long ago. So let's check that out, because Calvin Kattar just fought Arnold Allen, who's about to fight Max Holloway, and he ended up losing the fight because of MCL tear, ACL tear. I don't really know, but when will Calvin Kattar be coming back to fight? It does look like he's in training of some sort. Texas is an absolute joke. That makes sense. But I don't know. There's nothing to really see if Calvin Kattar is back in training, if he's back in the gym, if he's back to get ready for another fight. And what Brian Ortega said on that Instagram story was that he's already got a fight lined up. I highly doubt it. I mean, I could be wrong. There could be some scenario where Calvin Kattar is somehow ready to go, ready to rumble and fight Ilia Topuria later this year, but I highly doubt it. I'm very skeptical of Calvin Kattar being ready. So, like I said, that leaves us with one thing. He's not going to fight Movsar Evloev. They're not doing that. Bryce Mitchell, no. Sadiq Yusuf, Danny Ige, Barboza, Caceres, all of these guys are a no. They're not going to do that. The only guy that really makes sense right now for Ilia Topuria is Josh Emmett. And the fact that they're saying he's already got a fight scheduled, he's already got a fight lined up, means it's Josh Emmett. We know for a fact at this point. You never know. There could be some crazy scenario where it's somebody else. But it sounds to me like the fight's done and this is going to be the fight. Main event, UFC Spain. Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett. According to Ilia Topuria's coach, this was 2 days ago, Jorge Clement, Ilia had 2 offers from the UFC. At UFC 290 on July 8th, Brian Ortega or Josh Emmett. Brian Ortega is not there. Calvin Kattar, I highly doubt that's going to be the case. Chan Sung Jung, most likely going to be trying to fight Giga Chikadze for a retirement fight. Allen has a fight. Holloway has a fight. Yair is going to fight for the belt. Volkanovski's the champ. That leaves us with Josh Emmett, Ilia Topuria as the main event of UFC 290, which right now, this makes it a really solid first fight to be added to this UFC pay-per-view. And it gives Josh Emmett plenty of time, because this fight is happening in July 8th. March, April, May, June, July. That's 4 months. And we know who has a pretty bad problem of cutting weight. He doesn't really miss weight, but he has a hard time getting down to 145 is Josh Emmett. So giving him that luxury of a large amount of time to cut down to the featherweight limit at UFC 290 for a 3-round fight makes all the sense in the world. 2 hard, powerful hitters in this UFC featherweight division, going at it in a clash as the first fight of the UFC 290 International Fight Week pay-per-view. I mean, guys, it makes all the sense in the world. It makes all the sense in the world, so that's probably what they're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a fight. We got a banger here. I mean, you never know. You never know. But I think we already know, kind of. Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett is, in my opinion, pretty much done for UFC 290. And obviously, it's going to be on the main card. There's no way a guy that just fought for the interim belt is going to be on the prelims, and an undefeated up-and-coming Georgian prospect, Ilia Topuria, is going to be on the prelims. Not going to be the co-main event. I expect 2 title fights, but a banger like this between Ilia Topuria and Josh Emmett, which would be just an absolute banger of a fight, it's going to open up the pay-per-view is my guess. UFC 290 has a good one coming, and I really, really like this sound of Topuria versus Josh Emmett. But what do y'all think? Do you guys think Ilia Topuria is going to continue to rise the ranks and stay in the realm of the unbeaten in the UFC? And the only other undefeated guy in the featherweight division is Movsar Evloev. They're not going to fight. I think Movsar and Ilia are going to get these big steps up in the featherweight division, and this is a good test for Ilia. A small, compact striker with crazy, crazy power and decent takedown defense. He did get submitted in his last fight, and Ilia Topuria just submitted Bryce Mitchell. So obviously my prediction is going to be Ilia Topuria, unanimous decision, or a submission. But you never know. A guy like Josh Emmett, a veteran, 18-3, been fighting in the UFC for a while, can put up a pretty good fight against Ilia Topuria. But what do y'all think? Who wins? Ilia Topuria or Josh Emmett at UFC 290? It should be a banger. Put your thoughts down below. Ilia or Josh Emmett? And is it a fight of the night contender? I do think so. Alrighty then. Let's see if we got any more MMA news. Dun 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 dun. Light heavyweights. Carlos Ulberg. That was yesterday's news. Alright, we can do this one. We're going to do UFC 287 in a little bit. Let's talk the Diamond Poirier's future in the lightweight division. Dustin Poirier comments on Twitter, "What's next?" after Jonathan said Dustin Poirier is the only man to ever submit Michael Chandler, the only man to ever KO Conor McGregor, and to finish Max Holloway inside of the UFC. The only person to do it. The only person to do all of those 3 things. He's sitting, I believe, at number 2 or number 3. I'm not too sure if they moved Beneil up there. He's at number 2 in the UFC's lightweight division, beating guys like the number 3 Justin Gaethje, the number 5 Michael Chandler, the number 11 Dan Hooker, and that's about it in the top 15, but also Conor McGregor, who is near the top of his UFC lightweight division. He did lose to Charles Oliveira, but he's already got a fight. Beneil Dariush already has a fight. He just beat Chandler. Faziev's coming off a loss. Gamrot lost to Beneil, and he's only beaten Jalen Turner. Dos Anjos is in welterweight. Arman Tsarukyan has a fight. It sounds very simple here, ladies and gentlemen. What's next? Says Dustin the Diamond Poirier. It's quite simple. It is quite simple. You look at the entire top 15 of the lightweight division. Any of these guys from 10 to 15, they're not getting the step up to number 2. And even the younger guys like Jalen Turner coming off a loss. Arman already has a fight. Gamrot lost to a guy that's ranked below Dustin Poirier in the lightweight division. But there is a guy that is coming off a win in the UFC's lightweight division, top 5. And it just so happens that Poirier has already beat him. But is Poirier going to get a title shot off a Michael Chandler win? No. If Islam goes out there and beats Beneil Dariush, or he beats Charles Oliveira in a rematch, whatever the case may be, I don't know what's going to happen there. Whatever happens in either one of those two fights, is Dustin Poirier just immediately going to get the title shot after a Michael Chandler win? It's not happening. It's not happening. So it leaves one thing. And that one thing is pretty damn awesome. Pretty gosh dang awesome. Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys can see the water that is flooding out of my mouth at the moment, but if you watch the first fight, and if you watch any Justin Gaethje fight, and if you watch any Dustin Poirier fight, you know this is pure violence. You knew Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fazia would be pure violence. Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, pure violence. You know any fight that Justin Gaethje's opponent can survive over a round or two, those later rounds are going to be pure violence. And you know for a fact Poirier is going to be able to survive a little bit there. He's definitely going to be able to survive and probably even beat Justin Gaethje should they rematch in the UFC's lightweight division. And I think that's what's going to happen. I do think that's what's going to happen. Do I expect a finish? No! I predicted a decision in the Michael Chandler fight and in the Rafael Fazia fight as well. Poirier could very well finish Justin Gaethje. Gaethje has been finished by Khabib and Oliveira and Poirier again and Eddie Alvarez, for sure. But I think should they fight again, it's going to be pure violence for 5 rounds. For 5 full rounds in the UFC's lightweight division. Now, we got to figure out when this could happen, because Poirier, it's been a while since Poirier's fought. Been a while since that Michael Chandler fight, and he's already getting a little antsy, saying, what's next? Who's the next fight? Justin Gaethje just kind of fought. He was the co-main event of UFC 286 not too long ago, so it's not like we can make this the main event of a fight night in March or April. We got to go more down the line to maybe even June, July time period inside the UFC. And I'm gonna try to figure out a card that would make sense as the main event for this pure violence of a fight. May 20th is interesting. Hermanson versus Allen, UFC 289. I don't think May 20th would work, because UFC 286 was March, April, May. That'd be about 2 months. That's not really enough time for Justin Gaethje after going off that much of a banger type of a fight. So I'm going to rule out May 20th as the main event. June 3rd already got one. They're not main eventing a pay-per-view or anything. June 17th, June 24th. Those are interesting. Those are interesting indeed. Those are very, very interesting, actually. I'm going to say not June 24th. Not June 24th. I'm going to say that this in between UFC 290 and the O2 Arena. I say that makes an amazing, amazing time, because that gives Justin Gaethje a long, long while. So beginning of March, April, May, June, July. That's about 3 months and some change for Justin Gaethje to return to mixed martial arts. I think the UFC Fight Night main event right after UFC 290. So July 15th. That's where I'd like to see it. July 15th. Because we already talked about Ilia Topuria, Josh Emmett probably going to be added to UFC 290. John Jones versus Stipe on it. Volkanovski versus Yair on it. Adding Poirier versus Gaethje onto the card would be awesome. I would love it. Especially if they made it a 5-round, not main event, not co-main event, just a random 5-round fight on the pay-per-view. I would love it for sure. But you got to give the spotlight, because John Jones and all of them, they're going to kind of outshine a little bit for the popularity and stuff for UFC 290. So I don't really want to put such a banger like this on a pay-per-view. I want to give this to the fans for free. UFC Fight Night main event, making July 2023 one of the most stacked fight months in history. That's what I want. That's what I want. Because you got the International Fight Week UFC 290 stacked card. You got a main event with Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier the week after a banger UFC 290 card. And then you got the O2 Arena with Aspinall, Marcin Tybura. You got Patty on the card. You got Arnold Allen taking on, I don't even know. That month of July would be just absolutely vicious. That month of July could go down in history as the best month of mixed martial arts ever. If we can get Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier as a main event in between there, my life is set. That's what I want. That is what I want. I don't know if that's what you guys want, but that kind of gives both of them enough time to come back by July, around the time that maybe Conor McGregor could be coming back. You never know. But right in between two other amazing cards, you add a violence main event with Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. That is what I want. And I hope the UFC gives it to me. Prediction? I didn't give that yet, did I? Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. I would go Dustin Poirier 48-47, 48-47, and a 49-46 unanimous decision. I think one of the rounds that Gaethje wins, he's going to rock and drop Dustin Poirier. The other rounds, I expect violence. I expect more violence. I expect Poirier to knock him down, take down Justin Gaethje. I expect a war. And I do lean Dustin Poirier in that war. But we shall see. Do y'all think it will be made? Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. Should it happen? Will it happen? Put your thoughts down below. That's a banger. That is a banger. Indeed. Alrighty then. Let's go on to UFC 287. UFC 287. Pereira versus Adesanya 2. Main events is going to be a solid one indeed. Pereira 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, I don't know. We got Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal on the card. Rob Font and Adrian Yanez, the old boxer versus the new boxer. And we got the actual Masvidal with the mini Masvidal below him, Adrian Yanez. It's going to be a good card. Those top 3 fights are very, very solid. Then we got a second fight, Raul Rosas Jr. on the main card, taking on Christian Rodriguez above ranked Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis, who is the 5th fight on the card. That is crazy. Steve Garcia, Shayna Nurdanbiek. 2 women fights, but they're not bad. They are not bad at all. Luana Pinheiro, Michelle Waterson Gomez is one of the better women's MMA fights. Got Holland versus Ponzinibbio, Mershart, Joseph Pfeiffer, Bahamondes, Trey Ogden, and a good heavyweight fight to start off the pay-per-view. Chris Barnett and Sherman. I'm liking this card a lot. There were some cancellation. Nicholas Mota pulled out of his fight. We had Michael Chiesa, Jingliang Li. Sadly, he's no longer going to be on the card, so it's a little bit worse than it was. But 13 fights, they're all looking very, very solid, in my opinion. So, We're going to do the full card prediction. Make sure to go down and like the video if you like it. And if you enjoy the predictions, comment your predictions down below. And make sure to check out that pinned comment or the description for all of the bets that I'm going to be making for UFC 287. Probably the cheapest you're ever going to get someone's bets for. $3 a month for all MMA bets is absolutely insane. But without that being said, let's get into it. First fight of the night in the UFC's catchweight division, Trey Ogden and Ignacio Baja in the catchweight division of 160 pounds on short notice. Now, Trey Ogden is a solid striker. He was able to outstrike Daniel Zellhuber, an undefeated up-and-coming prospect who just did not let his hands go in that fight. Is Ignacio Baja not going to let his hands go? Come on, guys. It's Ignacio Baja. Of course, he's going to let his hands go in this fight. Trey Ogden was supposed to fight last week. That fight got canceled, so they rescheduled it to here against Ignacio Baja. Ignacio's younger, he's taller, he's lengthier, he's a better striker, and honestly, the takedown defense and the wrestling has been looking pretty decent. Has been looking very, very decent. Was able to even submit Zhu Rong in his last fight. And the striking is obviously there. Knocking out Edson Gomez with a kick. And then crazily knocking out Roosevelt Roberts with one of the craziest knockouts of 2022 or 2021, I believe. But I think this one should be a good one. I do not expect a finish from Ignacio Bahamondes. I know he's got 2 finishes inside the UFC. But Trey Ogden usually losing to like really, really solid grapplers and submission guys. That's the main reason he loses. He's a good grappler. He's a good wrestler. But usually when he loses, it's a slightly better wrestler, slightly better grapplers. And I don't really give Ignacio that much of an advantage over Trey Ogden. And Trey's never been KO'd. That's the only way I see Ignacio getting a finish, but I don't see it. I see this one going all the way. Ignacio outstriking Trey Ogden, getting a 29-28 unanimous decision. Chase Sherman and Chris Barnett in the heavyweight division. I'm going to say it right now. Violence. I mean, you already know this is going to be a banger. In the UFC's heavyweight division, Chris Barnett's going to go out there and just probably lose round number 1 if we're being quite honest with you. Then he's going to come back in round number 2. Maybe even finish him in round 2 or round number 3 like he was able to do with Jay Collier. That's going to be the prediction. I'm legit serious here. I know the age leans Chase Sherman. I know Chris Barnett's a fat and he's 36 years old, 267 pounds, 5'9". I mean, we all know this is a big boy in the heavyweight division. Very compact guy, but he's very elusive. He's very fast, and he's very good in the later rounds, if we're being quite honest with you. Chase Sherman's decent in those later rounds for sure, but I think Chris Barnett going to lose round number 1. Sherman's going to rock him a little bit, land some big shots, maybe even get close to finishing Chris Barnett in round number 1 using the boxing and countering him on the outside. And then round number 2, Barnett's going to close that distance. Barnett is going to come forward. He's going to throw. He's going to start throwing kicks. He's going to start coming forward and letting his hands really start to go on Chase Sherman. And I think we got yet another round 2 submission. I'm just kidding. KO from Chris Barnett. Ain't no way Chris Barnett's going out there to submit my guy, Chase Sherman. So, without that being said, it's going to be a banger. We all know a fight between this bat of heavyweights in the UFC. We all know it's going to be an absolute banger. Sometimes. It's either an absolute banger or they gas out and it's one of those slopper knocker fests where there's for 3 straight rounds and we see a decision. But these two guys like to go out there and get the finish or get finished. So that's what I'm going to go. Chris Barnett with a round 2 TKO. Next fight, we go on to is going to be, I don't even know what the next fight is. Sam Hughes and Jacqueline Amorim. Sam Hughes and Jacqueline Amorim in the women's strawweight division. Sam Hughes honestly not doing too bad inside of the UFC. She lost to Loma Lukbumi in her second fight in the UFC. Before that fight, a top 15, Tecia Torres got absolutely wrecked on short notice. Lost to Loma Lukbumi, who, let's say it right now, is legit. Is very, very legit. Because she's only lost to Lupita Godinez, submitted Elise Reed, and beats Denise Gomez by unanimous decision. She's very, very legit. So is Tecia Torres as well. And then after that one, she fought Luana Pinheiro, a gosh dang top 15 women's strawweight in the world. And she didn't get finished, did she? Everyone else has been finished by this girl. Submission, 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 submission. KO, KO, KO. And then Sam Hughes comes along and is unable to get the finish against her. Then she comes back after that and just destroys, not Estela Nunes, destroys Elise Reed with ground and pound and beats Estela Nunes, mixing in her takedowns. But then she loses, pretty split decision type of a fight to Piero Rodriguez, who is currently undefeated as a mixed martial artist and about to fight Jillian Robertson and is very close to getting inside that top 15 of the strawweight division. I mean, Sam Hughes has had a really, really bad run in the UFC in that she's lost a lot of her fights, but every one Sam Hughes fights is legit. And that includes Jacqueline Amorim, an undefeated jiu-jitsu practitioner, coming off an armbar on Ashley Nichols and a knee bar on Laveth Young, KO on Megan Owen, Taisha Gandhi, Paula Farias, all submissions in round numero uno. I mean, this girl, she's just fighting legit girl after legit girl over and gosh dang over and over again. I don't get it. I don't get how it keeps happening. And the betting odds are not really respecting her all too much. Minus 245 for Jacqueline Amorim. Started at minus 400. I kid you not. She was a 4-1 favorite on Sam Hughes at the start of those betting odds. Lupita Godinez was only a 2-1 favorite. Luana Pinheiro started off at minus 185. Piero Rodriguez started off at minus 230. And we got Jacqueline Amorim starting off a 4-1 favorite. That's a lot. That's a lot. Now, am I going to go Jacqueline Amorim to win? Yes. Yes, I am. I do have Jacqueline Amorim winning a decision, not a finish, a decision. And her first decision as an MMA fighter. Because Sam Hughes is a tough cookie. But should she be as big of a favorite as she is? No. We don't really get to see Jacqueline Amorim's striking all too much. We know Sam Hughes is a good wrestler. She's got good ground and pound. If Jacqueline pulls guard or she looks for a submission on bottom and she's unable to get it, Sam Hughes is good on top with ground and pound. She could tire out Jacqueline going for submissions and ground and pound on top. Very, very possible. So, Sam Hughes could very well go out there and wrestle and grind her way to a nice decision victory. A nice ground and pound TKO like she was able to do on Elise Reed and Estela Nunes. Am I going to go Sam Hughes to win? No. Should you bet on Sam Hughes? If you're going to bet anything on this fight, bet on Sam Hughes. It's underdog or pass 100% of the way on this type of a fight because, in my opinion, it's a slight, once we make our confident pick video a little bit later, I mean, Jacqueline Amorim is going to be one of those slight favorites. Not going to be confident in the slightest. So, I'm going to go Jacqueline Amorim to win a 29-28 decision. But I expect that 29-28 decision to be a very close 29-28 decision. But we shall see. Put your thoughts down below. Amorim or Sam Hughes? I got Amorim by decision. Next fight in in the middleweight division, Joseph Piper and Gerald Mershard. In the middleweight division, that's 50-50 on the betting odds. It's 50-50 on the Tapology as well. This is a very close fight. Never mind, it's not even 50-50 anymore. Joe Piper. Oh my God, it was never 50-50. Never mind. I must be thinking about a different fight. Minus 300 were the starting odds for Joe Piper. Now the man's at minus 170. Joe Piper, who beat Alan Amadovsky, who's absolute dog doo-doo. Ozzy Diaz, who's out of the UFC, lost to Dustin Poirier and got taken down by Ozzy Diaz in that fight as well. I don't know what's up with the rest of the MMA community, and I could be on a completely different ship here and can be off my rocker right now, crazy, with the pick that I'm about to say, but I got Gerald Mershard by unanimous decision. Chillax, guys. I think Gerald Mershard wins this fight. Let's look at the man's past few fights. I know he's 35, 10-7 in the UFC, but let's take a look at the guys that he's losing to. We got Thiago Santos. All right, Thiago Santos, Jack Hermanson. We got a title challenger. We got a top 10 middleweight. We got a former top 10 middleweight in Kevin Holland, and Eric Anders, who's fought in a main event inside of the UFC. Yeah, Ian Heinisch. All right, whatever. Hamzat freaking Chimaev and Krzysztof Jotko. These are the guys he's losing to. Every single one of them is super legit. And the guys he's beating are also super legit. Mahmoud Muradov, he went out there and submitted in round number 2. And one of the best grapplers in the middleweight division, Caio Borralho, who is training with Hamzat Chimaev, was unable to finish Mahmoud Muradov. We got Bruno Silva right here, who he ended up submitting with a guillotine and knocking down as well. Alex Pereira could not finish this man. The dude was on a crazy win streak. And Alex Pereira, the champ, beat him by decision. Yet Gerald Mershard was able to finish him. With that being said, Gerald Mershard's a better grappler. He's a better wrestler. He was able to knock down Bruno Silva, who the champ, Alex Pereira, was unable to. I think he can keep it very even with Joseph Piper on the feet. Yes, Piper's a slightly better striker. He hits a lot harder. He's faster. He's just obviously the better striker. But Gerald Mershard's not that much worse than Joseph Piper. I'm sorry to say. In the striking, he's not that much worse. And given the grappling and wrestling advantage he has, the ability to mix in takedowns when needed, and to even feint the takedowns to land shots on the feet, I think it's going to be a close one, but I lean the dog. I got the dog. Gerald Mershard with a 29-28 unanimous decision, a 2-1 underdog on this UFC pay-per-view. Gerald Mershard with the win. Next one, in the middleweight division, Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis in the middleweight division, 31.5 and 35.5 years old. You got some really solid strikers here. Now, Chris Curtis, he's always the guy to lose for a little bit, like he was losing against Brendan Allen, Phil Hawes, and Joaquin Buckley. He was losing in a lot of those fights, But then he comes back and knocks them the frick out, like Phil Hawes as well. Jack Hermanson wasn't necessarily the case. He wasn't able to come back in that one, but Jack Hermanson has a pretty solid chin. Doesn't get knocked out too often inside of the UFC, but it's a close one. This is a really close one. The height is very even. The reach does go Chris Curtis. The experience goes Chris Curtis. The chin, obviously, going Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin's chin is legit. Very, very legit. So, I'm not going to go Chris Curtis by knockout here, of course. It's either a decision win for Chris Curtis or a decision win for Kelvin Gastelum in what is going to be 3 rounds of a very, very good striking match. Both guys are a little bit small for the UFC's middleweight division. A little bit small for the middleweight division. So it makes it a little bit more fair. They're kind of both 180 pounders, 175 pounders, kind of right in between a welterweight and middleweight. But Kelvin just has a little bit more experience than Chris Curtis. And I think Kelvin could be able to mix in some takedowns here on Chris Curtis, possibly, but I highly doubt it. I kind of expect 3 rounds of just a good, solid striking match. Not a fight of the night contender or anything like that, but just a good, hard-fought scrap between Chris Curtis and Kelvin Gastelum. And the Tapology obviously is leading Chris Curtis off of recency bias and things like that. But for me, I got to think of who's able to just keep on pushing forward and landing and keep on coming forward with the strikes. That guy kind of is Kelvin Gastelum. But that is a negative in some ways as well, as if he keeps on coming forward, Curtis is going to start landing some big shots on him. But again, Kelvin has that kind of chin. So this is going to be a really close one. Betting odds have it 50-50. I kind of have it as a 50-50. But I do lean Chris Curtis to win. He's a slightly better striker, just a little bit. He hits a little bit harder than Kelvin as well. I think Kelvin's going to be pushing forward, trying to make this a dogfight, which it might eventually end up being. But I think Chris is going to land slightly harder shots, stay on the outside and counter Kelvin Gastelum and try to stay away from that dogfight. But eventually, it'll probably lead into a dogfight eventually. But I'm going to go Chris Curtis in what is going to be a very, very hard-fought, close battle between Chris Curtis and Kelvin Gastelum. Should be a good one. I'm going to go Chris Curtis by a unanimous decision. Next one in the featherweight division, Steve Garcia and Shayna Nurdanbiek. In the featherweight division, I'm going to say it right now, I got Shayna winning this fight. Steve Garcia has been knocked out viciously against Maheshate in the fight. Is Shayna going to do that? No, he's not. No, he is, gosh dang not. But what Shayna will do is go out there and try to take down Steve Garcia. And yes, I know Steve Garcia tries to do the same thing. He did it to Desmond Torres, Jose Mauricio, Charlie Ontiveros, and even Chase Hooper a little bit. He was probably going to just keep rocking him, and then take him down and just ground and pound the heck out of him. But that ended up, not happening. Is he going to be able to do that against Shayna Nurdanbiek? No, I do not think so. I think Steve could outstrike Shayna Nurdanbiek on the feet, for sure, in this fight. But can he fend off the takedown after takedown after takedown attempt over and over and over from Shayna Nurdanbiek over the full entire 3 rounds? I don't think so. Round 1, maybe. Round 1, maybe he might be able to defend those takedowns and keep the fight on the feet and possibly outstrike Shayna in round 1 using his height and reach. But once round 2 comes around, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen at that point. Shayna's going to start to mix in those takedowns, the wrestling, and win round 2, win round 3. I got Shayna by 829-28 decision. Next one in the strawweight division. One second. We go on to the strawweight division. Michelle Waterson and Luana Pinheiro. In the strawweight division, we are going to go with Michelle. I don't know, man. This is a close fight. Because Luana Pinheiro is an up-and-comer in this strawweight division, beating Sam Hughes, Randa Marcos, and a lot of girls on the regional scene as well by finish. And only one decision win recently, which was her last fight, which was a very, very good one against Sam Hughes. Now she's fighting Michelle Waterson, Michelle freaking Waterson, who's fought the best of the best in this women's strawweight division. I mean, we have so many former and current champions and things like that all over Michelle Waterson's record. All over it. We got Amanda Lemos and Marina Rodriguez as their last two fights, and even beating Angela Hill in a 5-round main event before that. The champ, the former champ, Carla Esparza, the former champ, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the former champ, Rose Namajunas. We got some legit girls on this girl's record. Luana Pinheiro is legit for sure. She's very, very solid of a striker. But I think Michelle Waterson's a little bit better. She throws a little bit more volume. She's a bit more active than Luana Pinheiro. And for those reasons, that's literally it. Luana Pinheiro hits harder, but she's not as experienced. Michelle knows that if she's able to keep her movement up, stay away from those big shots of Luana Pinheiro, and just simply outwork Luana Pinheiro. Lay more kicks, leg kick, front kick, body kick, jab, 1-2, move. She's able to just keep up the activity on Luana Pinheiro. That's what she needs to do to win. And that's what I think is going to happen. I got the veteran, Michelle Waterson Gomez, to win this one by a unanimous decision as the underdog. Luana Pinheiro almost a 2-1 favorite. I got the veteran Michelle by decision. Next one, Lupita Godinez and Cynthia Calvillo in the strawweight division. I'm going to go Lupita Godinez to win. She is younger. She's not as tall, not as lengthy. But Cynthia's been quitted recently. She got destroyed by Jessica Andrade in that fight. Literally quit against Andrea Lee in that fight. Just taking so much shots in that one as well. And then she got taken down by Nina Nunes a few times in their fight and outstruck as well. Lupita Godinez, I reckon, could go out there, keep the striking very, very even, take down Cynthia Calvillo and put on some punishment onto Cynthia Calvillo, ground and pound the heck out of her, and finish her in round number 2. That is what I think is going to happen here. I think it'll be a good fight. I mean, she'll put up a good fight. Cynthia Calvillo will go out there and try to make it an even one. But Lupita Godinez is going to get the fight down. She's going to start to land some elbows. And Cynthia, like she did in the Andrea Lee fight, she's going to start to doubt herself. And she's going to start to be like, this is too much. I'm taking too many shots. I'm going to quit. Lupita Godinez, she might not quit. She might just get TKO'd or something. But I think Lupita Godinez gets this fight down and just ground and pounds the heck out of Cynthia Calvillo in this fight. I'm calling second round TKO. Alrighty, boys. We go on to the main card. The first one in the welterweight division. Kevin Holland and Santiago Ponzinibbio. In the welterweight division, I'm going to go Kevin Holland to win. He's younger. He's way taller, way lengthier than Santiago Ponzinibbio. Actually, similar experience to Santiago Ponzinibbio, which is kind of crazy. But again, Alex Morono was out striking Santiago for the full entire fight. And then Santiago came back and finished him. Alex Morono is nowhere near as good of a striker as Kevin Holland is, who knocked out Joaquin Buckley, Alex Oliveira, submitted Tim Means as well. I mean, Santiago's not going to go out there and easily knock out Kevin Holland in this fight. I reckon if there's a finish here, it's Kevin Holland that is going to go out there and get the finish. But we got to remember that that Santiago was unable to get finished by Michel Pereira and Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal was able to go out there and knock out Vicente Luque, rock Shavkat Rakhmonov as well. So that leads to me believing that Ponzinibbio Kevin Holland is going to be a 3-round banger in the UFC's welterweight division, where I do believe Holland is the better striker. I believe he's the better grappler and submission guy as well. So if he wants to mix in some takedowns and some grappling, he can. But I think for the most part, he could outstrike Ponzinibbio at range. He's faster, he's more powerful, taller and lengthier. I think Holland wins every single round. in this fight in the welterweight division. And I think this win against Santiago Ponzinibbio will actually get him ranked. I'm going to look at the UFC rankings. UFC rankings really quick. And I do believe this could get him ranked. Michel Pereira is at number 15 in the UFC's welterweight division. He did only lose to number 7, Stephen Thompson, and number 3, Hamzat Chimaev. Beating like the number 16, 17 guy could get him inside the top 15 and set him up with a tall versus tall matchup of Neil Magny, Kevin Holland, 5-round main event or maybe co-main event of a UFC fight night. That's what I think. I got Kevin Holland winning all 3 rounds and getting a unanimous decision. All right, how many do we got left? We got Raul Rosas Jr., we got Rafa, Adrian Yanez, George Masvidal, and Gilbert Burns, and Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya. Uy, that's a good gosh damn main card. We'll get into that in 1 second. All right, we go on to the next fight in the bantamweight division. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. In the bantamweight division, the 18-year-olds up-and-comer, 7-0, beating Jay Perrin and Mando Gutierrez. Solid wins. And we got Christian Rodriguez beating Joshua Weems, as well as Junior Cortez. If you know Tracy Cortez, that is her brother. Only losing to Jonathan Pierce up a weight class in the UFC's featherweight division. And I by no means think this is going to be a domination by Raul Rosas Jr. I'm not one of those guys. I don't think Raul's going to go out there, take this fight down, and just absolutely dominate Christian Rodriguez in the fight. I think this is going to be a scrap. I think this is going to be an absolute scrap. And I'm not talking a striking scrap. I'm talking this is going to be 3 rounds of jiu-jitsu and wrestling scrambles, submission attempts, reversals, ground and pound. I mean, over and over and over, and reverses and scrambles and ground and pound over and over for 3 straight rounds. If you are a fan of wrestling, if you are a fan of grappling, and you want to see a good, solid back and forth action, grappling type of a fight, I do believe that is what this is going to be. And I think Raul Rosas Jr. will come out slightly ahead in this matchup and win a good 29-28 decision very closely. Christian Rodriguez might win one of those rounds by keeping the striking even on the feet, landing on top on the ground and pounding a little bit, might win one of those rounds for sure. But I think overall, in this amazing back and forth grappling match that I do expect it to be, Raul is slightly more skilled. Slightly more skilled, in my opinion. Should be a good one. A very solid fight. In the bantamweight division, I'm expecting a very good one. But I got Raul Rosas Jr. just kind of landing on top a little bit more, not getting really that close to a submission, but attempting, ground and pounding, trying to get the back of Christian Rodriguez, getting the Aljamain Sterling action going, punching, searching for the rear naked. Rodriguez isn't that guy to get finished that fast, so I expect this one to go all the way, but should be a good one. Raul by a decision. Next one. And also, the bantamweight division, Adrian Yanez and Rob Font in the bantamweight division. 3-round banger. 3-round freaking banger. I mean, if Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera are unable to finish Rob Font and Adrian Yanez, I don't even remember. Has he been finished? No. Split decision on Domingo Pilarte and a split decision on Miles Johnson. No, I'm sorry. We're not seeing a finish here. I would love to see a nice Adrian Yanez KO TKO like he did against Tony Kelly, like he did against Randy Costa, like he did against Gustavo Lopez, but I'm expecting more of a Davey Grant type of a fight. A back and forth He rocks him, he bloodies up him, he gets rocked over here, he's wobbling a little bit, he survives. I'm expecting one of those fights. I expect Rob Font to definitely put up one of those performances by a veteran where he's definitely going to rock Adrian Yanez some point in the fight. But Rob Font, if you remember his face after the Marlon Vera fight, it was quite beat up. Adrian Yanez lands a little bit more volume than Marlon Chito Vera. He's going to kind of bust up the face of Rob Font for sure in this fight. So I think by that kind of margin, with the volume being a little bit edging towards Adrian Yanez, the power kind of being pretty even as well, but with the fact that the face is going to be a little bit bloody for Rob Font, some nose deformation and things like that, I do believe Adrian Yanez is going to use his speed. Because, I mean, the height goes Rob Font, the reach goes Rob Font, but the speed, I kind of lean Adrian Yanez there as well. But I think he's going to use that speed to bust up the face of Rob Font, win round number 1, lose round number 2, and come back in an all-out classic round number 3 and win that round as well. I expect a good one here. Adrian Yanez by a decision. Could be a split decision. Like I said, it could be like the Davey Grant fight, and that was a split. This could very well also be a split decision. Next one in the welterweight division, Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. In the welterweight division, you already know, Gilbert Burns by, let's go submission here. I think this is going to be an absolute domination. If I want to be like one of those predictors that can say submission or decision, sure, I could. But I'm going to go for the submission here. Gilbert Burns beat Tyron Woodley fairly dominantly in that fight. Beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson by unanimous decision, mixed in those takedowns. Then he was able to go out there, submit Neil Magny, only losing to Kamaru Usman, the former champion, and then Khamzat Chimaev. Jorge Masvidal is a big step down from those guys that he's losing to, especially because Jorge's lost to Usman twice, one of them by knockout like Gilbert Burns did, and then he lost to Colby Covington. Colby literally gave the blueprint for Gilbert Burns. Gilbert's not as good of a wrestler as Colby, but he should be able to get the takedown at least once on Jorge Masvidal, where he's going to have a significantly better grappling pedigree than Colby Covington and, of course, then Jorge Masvidal. And at that point, he's going to submit him. And I think Jorge might as well go over and fight in his own promotion, Game Bred Boxing, or start considering maybe even retirement after this fight, because I think it's going to be a domination. Jorge might have his moment in the first minute of the fight, might land a good shot or two or something like that, but as soon as Gilbert gets a hold of Jorge, it's over at that point. Because like I said, or I don't think I've said it in this one yet, but Gilbert can actually hold his own on the feet. He went through an absolute war with Khamzat Chimaev, 3-round non-stop battle in the welterweight division. I'm sure he can hold his own in the striking here against Jorge, but the path of least resistance is, wrestling and grappling, which I think he will go to a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in to round number 1 and continue to go to it throughout the fight. I don't think we see a first round submission, but I do got a Gilbert Burns round number 2 rear naked choke submission, which should be a good one in the welterweight division. Now, for our final fight in the middleweight division, Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira in the middleweight division. Adesanya, well, he's not really doing too good against the man that goes by Alex Pereira. And it says right here, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya 2. This is the 4th fight. Pereira's 3-0 on Israel Adesanya. He knocked him out. He beat him in a controversial decision, and then he knocked him out again. Both of those knockout wins were in the final rounds of their fights. And I know Adesanya is the same height, the same reach, is a little bit younger. None of this matters. The age, the height, the reach. That's not what we're talking about. The only thing we got to talk about is the differences. Because I think in that first fight, had Alex Pereira not made the mistake of tripping on that takedown, I think he would have won that set. That I think it was the third round where he got taken down by Israel Adesanya. I think he would have won that rounds and then won round number 5 and won a 48-47 decision either way, even in round number 1 too. So he would have won round number 5. He would have won round 2 or round 3, one of those rounds. But round 1, if Israel Adesanya did not hurt Alex Pereira at the end of round number 1, he would have won round 1 as well. And he probably would have won a decision on Israel Adesanya. But we got to talk about the new stuff. Because obviously, if it's kind of the same, if they have similar game plans here, there's really nothing different about the first fight. They didn't work on anything and they just went right back into the cage. I would go Alex Pereira to win, for sure. For sure. Because he would know that he could just pressure forward on Adesanya, laying that hook, and just keep pressuring and pressuring and pressuring, get Adesanya's back into the cage, and try to knock him out. I'd be very confident if this rematch was set 2 weeks after the first fight, a month, 2 months after that first fight. But as of right now, we've had 4.5 months. By the time the fight happens, about 5 months between their first MMA fight and their second MMA fight. And as we've seen on Instagram, on Twitter, on whatever the case may be, Adesanya is really starting to train his wrestling and grappling. That worries me, because obviously I want to predict Alex Pereira like I did in the last fight. But again, that wrestling and grappling is definitely worrying me from Israel Adesanya, because he's really going hard on not defensive wrestling, offensive wrestling that he's most likely going to try to use on Alex Pereira in this fight. It's very tough. It's very, very tough, because that's what it comes down to. Pereira is a better striker. He's more powerful. That's really it. Their speed is even. They got different techniques and different shots they go to. But overall, Adesanya lands a little bit more volume, but that volume is kind of just completely nullified by the fact that Alex is landing much, much harder shots. And again, the main factor here is how much is Israel Adesanya's training for wrestling going to impact this fight, and how much is the defensive training in wrestling that Alex Pereira is doing, how much is that going to be impacting the fight? We don't know yet. We do not know. So it's kind of a shot. It's shot at the dartboard on how good Israel Adesanya's wrestling's been going, how good Alex Pereira's wrestling's been going. If Pereira is able to again defend those takedowns, he's going to win. He's going to win. If his defensive wrestling continues to improve, he's going to win this fight. Because he's confident. Adesanya is still going to be going out there another time knowing that he just got knocked out. So I think Alex Pereira goes out there, and I don't think he knocks him out this time. I don't think he goes out there and knocks him out this time, but I think he wins round number 1, loses round number 2. Adesanya is going to win round number 2. Pereira wins round number 3. Adesanya wins round number 4. It's going to be like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then it's going to come down to round number 5, where we saw Pereira knock out Adesanya the last time. Adesanya is going to start to go forward and look for the finish. Adesanya is going to be the one coming forward in round number 5. And that's where Adesanya is going to get rocked, just like he did in their first fight. And not finish. I don't expect another finish here. I think we get one decision, one finish. One decision, one finish. It's going to be a little cycling between every single time these two guys fight. So I think this one goes all the way. Round 1 and round 3 to Alex Pereira. Round 2, round 4 to Adesanya. And then round number 5, Pereira is going to land some good shot. Adesanya is going to start to recover. He's going to realize he's down. He needs a finish, or he needs to find a way to win the round and do something big. It's going to make for a heck of a final round. I don't expect the finish. I expect round 5 to be the best round of the whole entire fight, but it should be a good one. I got Alex Pereira by a close 48-47. Split decision, maybe, but maybe even a unanimous decision. And that's what I'm going to go with. Alex Pereira by a unanimous decision. that is it for UFC 287 Pereira Adesanya. I got Alex Pereira as an underdog in the main event by a decision. Gilbert Burns by a submission. Adrian Yanez by decision. Raul Rosas Jr. by decision. Kevin Holland by a decision. Hopefully a finish, but I doubt it. Lupita Godinez by a finish in round number 2. Michelle Waterson by a decision. Shayna Dardadbiak by a decision. Chris Curtis by decision. Gerald Meerschaert by decision. Jacqueline Amor by decision. Chris Barnett with the finish in round number 2. And Ignacio Baja with a decision. Now, the ones that I said decision, there are a lot of them that have a high likelihood of possibly being finishes, are Gerald Meerschaert, Shayna Nuridan Biek, Kevin Holland, and Raul Rosas Jr. But those are my thoughts for UFC 287. Like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. How decision? Really? Yeah, I'm going to go decision, my guy. Thank you guys for watching the live. That is the MMA news week.